Brian.
Hello. Just put my glasses on.
Brian is testing.
Oh, they're still very dirty.
Oh, he's got dirty glasses. Good morning, everybody.
Through my not able to see you. Whatever. Just a quick hit today's show. How to stop letting guilt and shame control your life.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say something off the top. This is a very big, very emotional topic for a lot of people. So if that's you, that's awesome. But I also want to say the other side of that. It's not like I don't feel guilt and shame regularly at all.
Right.
So it's not part of my trait or disposition.
Yep.
But I'm both married to and father of 2 women who do feel guilt and shame quite a bit.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
But so for me, it was learning how to understand that and be as supportive as I possibly can through it all. And that makes this show perfect for everybody.
Yay! I have to say, good morning, Jennifer and Scott, who is here for an appearance. We have missed you.
Yay!
And I want to say this is a true story. I was just thinking about you today, so it's really kind of ironic.
Yes.
That you.
And isn't it ironic?
Don't you think?
It's like By the way, that song.
I know it's not ironic.
Someone should tell Alanis Morissette there's no irony in any of those phrases. Those are things that just kind of suck. But there's no irony. So no, it's not ironic. What's wrong with your water?
My glass smells again.
Fuck.
Oh, but I want you to smell it because it's not my imagination. Anyways, good morning,
Got my
Brian.
own smelling glass right
I can't even drink it. Good morning, Brian, Connie, Karen, Lisa, Caitlin, Mike.
Yes.
Daniel C. Grant is in the house.
I really, really, really like that man.
Yeah, me too.
Daniel C. Grant.
He is
You can't call him
phenomenal.
Dan.
Well, you could.
No, you can't. You can't call him Dan. You can't call him Dan Grant.
Well, not if you're in our
You
house.
can't call him Daniel Grant. He's Daniel C. Grant.
You know, a little known fact to the crew.
Yes.
Brian number 1 is like the king of nicknames, and once he's bestowed upon you a nickname, that's the only thing he'll ever call you.
Yes.
But more than that, it's the funniest little thing. Like there's certain people who it doesn't matter how long we've known them.
Yeah.
We will continually refer to them either by their last name, their first name, a combination of both,
Absolutely.
or their nickname.
Can I give examples of people in the crew right now?
Yeah.
Jennifer and Scott.
Yeah.
That's all she is to me. She's Jennifer and
right?
Scott.
And if I were to say like Jennifer, Brian would be like,
Who are you talking about?
Who are we talking about?
And then it's just not right. Carrie is Smalls.
Yep.
Maya is Baby Girl.
Yeah.
Chase is Chaser.
Or he's my monkey.
I'm going to keep going. Brian Sakowicz is Brian Bag of Brains. Connie is Mother Nature. Lisa Draplik is Mama Draps. Mike Draplik is Papa Draps.
Yeah, and
I could go on.
Away from the nicknames for a second, like Lisa Arsenault, the only thing we ever call you is Lisa Arsenault. It's never your full name.
No.
The other person who came to my mind is Jeff Patton. You've known Jeff Patton forever,
15 years.
and we always call him Jeff Patton.
Yeah, David Jack, who's a friend of me and Jeff Patton, is not David, nor is he David Jack. He's DJ.
DJ, right?
Right? So it's just a thing.
There we go.
By the way, I am really excited about this show. Because again, it's all about how to stop letting guilt and shame control your life. And the reason I'm excited about it is that I don't have guilt and shame as a characteristic in me, but my wife and my daughter, Carrie, did in the past. Maya still does. So I've had to learn how to understand that, how to be a support mechanism for people who do have that trait, which means this show is for everybody. Because if you do have a guilty, shame-based kind of trait or mechanism inside of you, then you know what we're talking about. It controls your life.
Right.
It keeps you absolutely stuck on so many levels.
It's paralyzing.
Oh, absolutely. So you talk about achieving your goals or being happy or finding an ideal mate or being in an ideal relationship. Guilt and shame can control all of that, and sometimes without even you knowing.
Yeah, well, that was the case for me.
So
we'll
this is a
talk
powerful,
about that.
powerful show. Jeff Patton is Jeff Patton.
Yeah.
Good morning, Aunt Chivas.
You know,
Our monitor is absolutely stuck again.
Good thing we've got David Foster and Loria Petrucci coming up soon
Absolutely.
with our...
This monitor suffers from guilt and shame. It is stuck.
Because it's my old monitor.
Yes. We need to amend that, though, in some way.
Yeah, I'll
get my phone or something like that.
In 2 seconds. I think it just needs to be restarted like this. I also...
we have 5 minutes left in the pre-show. We are in no hurry.
In the pre-show, I feel the need to inform the entire crew.
Yeah.
And this is probably not going to be exciting for you, but you need to understand how exciting this is to me.
Yes.
That Friday is new hair day.
Yes.
Friday is the day I go to the hairdresser and revamp my hair. And if you've known me for any length of time, Jeff Patton,
I have.
Brian, this is a big deal for me.
Huge.
Because it is like it's a spring fix thing. I love doing it.
Yeah, it's massive.
So stay tuned.
I'm looking for. We're gonna live stream some of that.
Yeah, we
for
are.
Sure. The monitors bust or slow again or whatever it is. But I just want to point out there are a lot of people. I saw Dana Powell. I believe I saw Zoe. People have commented, wow, I recognize myself in this. This show's big. And I loved Kristen Mahone-Johnson's comment. She said, I think I confuse guilt and empathy all the time.
We talk about that.
Yes, we're talking about that today. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing to recognize, Kristen. It's very, very powerful. By the way, speaking of nicknames, Kristen is not Kristen. She is Kristen Mahone-Johnson.
All the time. Absolutely.
I've never not said your name just like that. Right? Neither is Carrie.
Yeah, it's just the way we roll.
After the show, we're doing our thing. We're going to the gym. Hey, did you see the comment Kristen Mahone-Johnson made today?
Right?
It was really powerful. Like, that's who you are to us.
On that note, by the way, whoever's watching right now, did you catch our live stream yesterday from the gym when we both PR'd again? So we PR'd on we both PR'd on all of our lifts.
3 lifts.
And I want to point out, this was not the official test. This was like a mock test. My greater point to that is my central nervous system today is fucked. I have dropped everything. I have walked into things. Yeah. I am a mess.
We don't feel tired, but our bodies are saying, shut the fuck up. Stop trying to move shit.
Yeah, my body's like, no. Well, I don't know.
I tried to put chapstick on earlier, and I was like my body's just shut down completely.
Could you tell me again?
Like that.
You know, if you're out there right now, can you please do me a favor and just chime in and say, hey, Carrie and Brian, because
our monitor is stuck. It's got guilt and shame.
We're having some tech, and this one's not moving either, the one that we're looking at. So
you guys are out there, let us know.
Some technical... Oh, you know what?
What?
I can grab... Hold on. You keep talking.
Oh, hi.
Brian's got you.
It's the Brian Grasso Show.
Hold on.
I do also want to say that I see Billy Reuters here. So, Billy, I'm glad you're here. If you are here and you're still here, talk to me. I want to talk a little bit about yesterday's training session, our lifts, because we live streamed for you our 2 respective squat personal best. Carrie Campbell squatted 305 pounds. 305 pounds for a single at 130-pound body weight. That's impressive. I did a 355-pound front squat. And if you're not familiar with squatting, front squatting is just a very different lift than back squat. You can back squat way more than you can front squat. So 355 is a big, big lift. I'm very proud of that. But then Carrie did a PB on bench press. 155 pounds. Yeah. I did a PB on bench press. To understand, I bench very close, so when you're out wide, it's a little bit easier. But a close bench press of 300 pounds even. I was very, very proud of that.
Yeah, it's great.
This little picture, Dinka, then deadlifted 265.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, but go ahead.
And I deadlifted 425. Now, neither 425 for me or 265 for Carrie are massive deadlift numbers, but that's because our deadlifts suck.
You know,
it's mechanics. We're still learning how to deadlift.
Yeah, I want to chime in on that one because for me that was actually the lift. I'm happy about joining the 300 club in squats. What the fuck am I talking about?
Yes.
But no, I want to say that the deadlift is actually there's so much there's great lessons in my deadlift.
Yes.
And the point of the lesson is that we were, like Brian just said, we've never really deadlifted great.
No.
And I have been watching over and over again videos of power lifters and my coach and other coaches and observing with like these eyes to find out what I'm doing that I need to augment. And last week I figured it out.
Yeah.
And I made the change. And so
now we're getting there.
I have never pulled anywhere close to that.
Absolutely.
And it's,
Want to say shout out, good morning to Dr. Ryan Wolford, who's in the house.
Good morning,
Cecily's
Ryan.
with us. Christine Basista. Billy Reuters says 355 is no joke. Good morning, Angela Dearman. Hello again, Connie, because we do see you now. Thank you for that. Michelle Lee is here. Sandy Weinberg, my European girlfriend, is here.
Thank you.
Karen Roberts is here.
I love that everybody played the game and just chimed in.
Yes, and this monitor is different, so it's kind of fucking me up, but at least it's working.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's all good.
It's smaller, so good thing Brian has his glasses.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be able to see shit.
Yeah.
Anyways, you know what? I'm going to kick us off.
Let's go.
Welcome to Brian and Carrie in the Morning. We are coming at you live from Mount Tremblant, Quebec. It's a bit of a drizzly day here, but it's warm and spring is budding, so we are very, very happy about that. 5 mornings a week we come at you live, Monday through Friday. We start at 10 a.m. Eastern, but the pre-show starts at 9:50 in the morning, and you should come then, because that's when all the fun happens. Today's show is all about how to stop letting guilt and shame control your life. That is a big topic for virtually everybody in one of 2 ways. Either you do have a lot of guilt and shame and you recognize that, and you don't know what to do about it, but you do understand how much it holds you back, how much it keeps you boxed in. Mm-hmm. Or you are in a relationship, be it a friendship, a marriage, a parent, to somebody who does exhibit guilt and shame, right. And being a support mechanism for them is so critical. Critical? That whole thing was fucking brilliant. Till I said critical. Critical. Fuck. And that, like, I was on a roll, because what I was about to say is how we start every show. Is say hello to our international crew, that's you. So where my crew at?
Crew.
It's critical that you give us some hearts. You say crew times 4.
Can I just say, what in the world happens when that kind of stuff happens, right? Your brain just decides, nope. I'm not computing that word properly.
Now, I do want to say before we move on, now this monitor and that camera is also stuck.
Maybe nobody's chiming in.
No, people are here. People are definitely here. So if you're out there, just give us a hello, give us a crew times 4, etc., because our monitor, the second of our monitors, and even our camera seems to be not working.
You know, I want to say that I think part of the issue is we live in the mountains, and there's been a lot of cloud and fog coverage the last couple days, and internet's been a little bit spotty. So just if you chime in and we're not addressing your comment, please know that we are not ignoring you, and we will do what we can.
We will.
Okay, so
can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I just want to be sure, like, this is now me talking to you, because we don't even know if I can hear us right now. Is it worth doing an entire show that might not being recorded? No, my nervous system's fine.
Well, that's a great question.
It is a great question, because we're definitely stuck on both monitors, and that leads me to think that maybe just okay, hold on. Okay, we're going to make a request again. If you are out there, if you experienced guilt, can you please write yes? And if you don't, write no. Carrie demands it. Oh, shit. Why are you so bright? I don't know. You're closer. That's why you're closer to the lights. I don't know. No, Am I? No, I just told you. You don't have to keep saying I don't know. I didn't see how, I'm like a foot behind you. Yeah, because if I sit back here, it's not comfortable. I gotta lean here. Well, we're up to 36 viewers, so the views are climbing. Yes. The comments are just not. Hold on. Technical interruption, because this is important for us. But don't go anywhere. The reason this is so important, because we like to talk to you. Exactly. It's like one of our favorite things is to talk to you all. Otherwise, it's not as fun. Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of comments. Everybody's commenting. Okay, so everyone's here. We just may have to do that 1,000 times. We'll just roll with it that way. All right. Well, having said that, how to stop letting guilt and shame control your life. This is critical. Or critical, you know. So let me start. The first place I'm going to start is by itemizing my top 3. You know, and I think it's so important to understand that nothing is ever boxed into 3 points, right? But like, we always bring to you the ones that are the most powerful, the most profound for us. So these, for me, you know, I was thinking about it when we were preparing for this show, and I thought back to myself to what I would call like the big, like, outliers insofar as guilt and shame in my past and what I experienced. And so you might be guilty if. A guilty person if. This is like a Jeff Foxworthy thing. It's kind of the way I roll. You know, you might be a guilty person if you identify as being a fixer. Right.
You are, number 2, a defender, or number 3, you are a chronic blamer. Now, there's a fun little twist into that one, a nuance into that one I'm going to get to in a second. But those are the top 3 that we're going to talk about today. Are you a fixer, are you a defender, and are you a blamer?
So let me ask a question now. Do you out there, identify with being a fixer? So let's define that better, right?
Yeah.
Do you identify with that? Are you the kind of person that in a situation when it turns negative or sour, there's disagreement, even if it's not hostile, it's just disagreement in general, or someone you love is sad or angry or something kind of negative happened to them. This goes above and beyond being supportive. Do you feel as though you must almost suppress and oppress what you feel and what you're experiencing in order to immediately make them feel better?
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Which can be classically misconstrued as a positive thing. But the real linchpin there is that you abandon concern for yourself in the moment. And instead you direct your efforts towards fixing the situation for the person or the person. So do you identify with that?
We definitely have some fixers in the house who have identified. So as Brian's kind of scrolling through here, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go into each one of those point by point, by the way. But I want to start first by giving you a little bit of background. And so if you have, I actually was going to pull up an excerpt from my book, People Pleasing Almost Killed Me. Because I talk a great deal about it in that, about guilt and shame. But I didn't have the opportunity to. But if you have read my book, you know this, you've read about this, you're going to identify and be able to connect to it from that point. But the book really does paint this whole experience that we're talking about right now. So guilt for me, and I want to say this, like, I didn't even know it was guilt. We talked about that at the very top of this show, right? I had no idea I was a guilty person until you and I got together, to be honest with you, and you started to kind of point it out to me, and we traveled down the world of understanding it and starting to create change. And if you're a guilty person and you felt shame, you're going to relate to this. It is absolutely paralyzing. Like, there is a wall. I used to refer to it as like the 20-foot wall. There's like me, and then my guilt wall that just gets in the way of me being able to create change and do, things that are probably more serving for me.
Absolutely.
So if you want to chime in on anything, just let me know.
Kristen Mahone Johnson, first of all, there's been a lot of comments. Cecily said no, she doesn't identify with that. But Caitlin Graham, Angela Dearman, Connie, Kristen Mahone Johnson, Mike Draplock, a lot of people are absolutely resonating with this. And I love Kristen Mahone Johnson's comment. I constantly feel like I identify myself as the glue. Things will fall apart if I don't fix them. That was my wife. And look, if maybe we didn't hit you properly with our definition of a fixer, but listen to what Kristen Mahone Johnson said, because you know what? The glue is a nicer, more positive way. I want to say this properly. We're not talking about being empathetic. We're not talking about being a good person. We're not talking about being a good supporter, a good friend, a good spouse, a good parent. We're talking about dipping over the bar, where you identify yourself as the person who must hold it all together, the person who must fix, who must repair, who must abandon what they might need in the moment, so much so they don't even recognize what they need. And that was big for you.
So let's start with you might be a guilty person if you're a fixer. Okay, let's go into that one because we started with that one. So, I think that everybody can identify with what it means to be a fixer, right? Like, it's the person who goes around thinking that they need to fix everything. And, the driver behind that when you're a guilty person is what's the important part to understand, okay? So for me, and I'm going to explain this through a story, okay? So if Brian and I had in the past gotten into an argument or something like that, okay? And it had been elicited by me. So I was reactive. I said something or did something, or, even a little nuanced thing, like, for example, like, we were trying to go out for dinner and we were picking a restaurant and Brian asked me where I wanted to go and I would say, like, I don't know, I want to go to Mike's, and that's not where he wanted to go. But he would be like, no, it's okay. Guilt would like take over me.
It would come into your face.
And I would immediately go into, no, we got to fix this. Like, I didn't say that out loud, right? I would all of a sudden start changing my plans of where I wanted to go, which was confusing all of itself to him, right? But when we got into it in the past, I would go into the the process of trying to fix the problem as quickly as possible. But it wasn't really because I was looking for harmony. What I was really looking for was a fix to the situation in order to ease the burden of guilt that I was feeling.
Yes.
So I was trying to fix the emotion I was experiencing because guilt was so heavy. So if I fixed it and everything was okay, then I wouldn't feel guilty anymore. Because guilt is an oppressive feeling, right?
It's very oppressive. Now, could you maybe tend to that?
Yeah.
Well, I say a couple of things. Not being somebody who really has felt a lot of guilt or shame in my life, my experience of being a support network for Carrie when we first got together in the relationship was very new. It was very alarming. I didn't know how to deal with it. But I quickly recognized two things, okay? And this is somebody who's not been under the rug, so to speak, of guilt and shame.
Right.
So now I'm coming at this from a different perspective. There's two things I noticed immediately, and this is me being fully vulnerable and in full disclosure, okay? We're all human. We all have ego. We all, shade certain ways sometimes. What I started recognizing is that when Carrie got guilty, and I'm going to use the restaurant example. Carrie said she wants to go to Mike's. Now, if I didn't want to go to Mike's, do you know what I would do? I would subtly manipulate the situation.
That's an amazing share.
I would subtly manipulate the situation in order to provoke a little guilt in her so that I would eventually get to go to the restaurant I wanted to. Now, I don't think I'm a bad man. I think I'm human. I think that I didn't know how to deal with, correlate to a person who has a lot of guilt and shame. So I found myself, and I became aware of it very immediately. I'm like, God, I'm manipulating this.
Yeah.
Right? And that was something that hurt my heart. Like, I don't ever want to manipulate my wife. I don't want to manipulate anybody.
Right.
So that's one thing to consider. Now, here's the second thing, okay? And this is something that Carrie was blind to. And I'm not suggesting, the work we've done on ourselves over the last 7 years has just been massive. Who we were is not who we are now. But my point in saying that is this. When you feel a need to fix every situation, abandon what you need, abandon your preferences, abandon what you might want or need in that moment in order to fix a situation, fix a person, relieve yourself of guilt. Think about that from 1 second. It is a topic nobody wants to hear. Where is your self-worth? How much do you value yourself? And I want to be clear. Now, I'm going to use Krista Mahone Johnson's language, but I'm certainly not talking about Krista Mahone Johnson. Yeah. I'm just going to take her language for a second, okay? We know people, we work with people who champion themselves as the fixer. I'm the glue that holds my family together.
I used to.
If I don't take care of it, it'll all fall apart. And Chase will, and Maya and Brian, it'll all fall apart. That is circumventing your self-worth. That is trying to create value so that you feel valuable.
Right.
Because in the absence of being the glue, you don't feel value.
Right. So
I want you to think that's from somebody who's never been guilt, shame based, but watched it.
Yeah.
And those are the two things I saw immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, that information you shared about how you used to subtly manipulate it, I think is so powerful. And I think, when we talk about in relationships, it's a dance of two people. It really is a dance of two people, right?
Yes.
Because Brian, in recognizing that, he was able to change the dance steps.
Yes,
right?
completely.
And, it really is powerful.
Yep.
I'm going to go into a little bit more of the self-worth stuff a little bit later on. So I'm going to leave that for now. But needless to say, I couldn't agree more with you.
Yes.
And again, guys, remember, if you're watching right now and you're chiming in and we're not responding, it's only because our monitor is a little bit testy today. So that's the fixer. Okay.
Yes.
The next you might be a guilty person if point is, do you identify as being the defender? So chime in. Do you recognize yourself as a defensive person?
So
okay.
Define that.
A defensive person. I guess the best way to say it is that whenever anybody would bring something to my attention, so if Brian would bring something to my attention, it's like, this happened, and just kind of shining a light on some of my behaviors, I would immediately go on the defense.
Yes.
I would immediately start saying, but that's not what I meant, but this is how little things, like tiny little things, like if Brian's like, you just expressed yourself, you just said something, and I don't really understand what you're saying. You know, could you try and explain that again? I would get defensive, like right there.
Yeah.
But that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say it this way. No, you don't understand.
You're misinterpreting me.
You're misinterpreting me.
I'm not being heard.
I'm not being heard.
That was her big one. Brian, I'm not being heard right now.
I'm not being heard right now.
That was your big one. Yeah. God, you haven't said that in like 5 years.
Right? Thank goodness. So now here's one of the things that I learned about the defender. Well, obviously, when we're defensive, we're protecting ourselves from something,
yes,
right? I mean,
absolutely.
That is so basic, right? But what I learned about being defensive as a guilty person, the reason I'm being defensive is because I'm actually trying to talk myself out of taking accountability for the actions that I actually did.
And why are you doing that?
Because if I don't talk myself out of being accountable, what ends up happening is I feel guilty, right? Because I can't take on that load of that responsibility of what I did. So I end up feeling guilty about it. So defense allows me to kind of skirt around the issue. Yeah. It really doesn't do jack shit though, because you end up talking yourself into a greater hole.
Right.
But you're basically, defense mechanisms is talking yourself out of being accountable.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the core of it.
That's it. And let me take some strain off of Carrie and all our friends and colleagues and crew members out there who do have guilt and shame and they can identify with the defender. By the way, I want to know, do you identify with the defender? Our monitor's now just being rebooted, so if you do identify with it, please say so, right? But now I'm gonna position it from the other end. The spouse who does not have a guilt and shame bone in his body necessarily, what would happen to me when Carrie would defend herself immediately, right? I would misunderstand.
Yeah.
Right? I would be like, how can you not take responsibility? Like, Carrie, you said this 20 seconds ago. So what would happen? I would get triggered into ego and a fight would happen.
Yeah.
An argument would happen. Now, I want to be clear. Why is this important for both people in the position? Because it's very easy for me, like I used to do in the past, to blame Carrie. Say, you're the one who's defending yourself. How can I not get triggered and get annoyed? Well, how about I take some accountability and start to learn to understand my wife and understand my daughter, who do defend repeatedly.
Yeah.
But it's a vacuum of self-worth. As soon as the defense happens, I recognize now, especially in Maya, because you've evolved out of that she is trying with all of her power to stave away feelings of guilt and shame. So what, I'm going to be the asshole and pile on? That's my job in the equation. Right. Watching my 11-year-old daughter fight back tears like I used to watch my wife fight back tears, defend themselves, because in reality, all they're feeling is, I don't want to feel guilty. I don't want to feel shame. Yeah. So they're trying to stave it away. So my job in that moment is to not be an asshole and pile on. My job is to understand. I don't have to be able to relate, which is what I'm going to talk about more today. I can't relate to Maya or Carrie feeling guilt and shame because I don't feel guilt and shame. But I can understand how to not be an asshole. Right? So it used to be I would get angry at Carrie. You're the one who made me upset. And then I had a wake-up call. Hey, asshole, you're the one who's making yourself upset. How about you extend a little bit of understanding to your wife? Yeah. You know, changed everything.
I think that it's really important. I think it's so important to understand that when people project behaviors out at you, it's never really purposefully coming your way. Right? Sure. It's not purposely coming your way. It is. They're all coping strategies for what we're feeling on the inside, right?
Yes, indeed.
So defense for me would protect me from hurting.
Yeah.
I mean, end of story. That's it. The defense was a way to avoid the pain that I was feeling. Yep. And if you are a guilty person, you are so going to relate to this. And I'd love for you to chime in if you can relate to this, where somebody says one thing to you that does pile on the guilt.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, that you're at that bottom of the hole, it got deeper and deeper and deeper, and the self-loathing and the guilt just start coming in. Now, this is the important part, okay? Because if you are waiting for everybody around you to start changing their behaviors, you're making a mistake.
Yeah.
Because it was not about the way Brian talked to me.
Sure.
It was about me understanding, okay, when Brian says this to me or this happens, I feel this way. And really starting to go into it and understand, like, why do I get defensive? What's going on in that little tiny voice, that learn the language voice that we talk about all the time,
right,
that's deep down inside me? And that's when I realized, you know what? I'm avoiding feeling bad.
Absolutely.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So chime in if you can relate to the defender or the fixer. Where do you find yourself?
Absolutely.
If you are a guilty person?
Nikki says they go between the fixer and the defender, which makes sense, because so did Carrie.
Yep.
Lisa Arsenault has a great comment. I many times also felt guilty for not saying what I truly felt, so as to avoid confrontation. That is something that you lived for a long time, and would instead answer what I thought the other person expected to hear when they would begin or end their questions or comments with something like, well, don't you think, or well, do you agree with?
Yeah.
That was also Carrie.
Right.
Because at one point, you used to tell me, but you have expectations of what you expect me to say. And I'd be like, no, I don't.
Right.
But then I started manipulating the situation.
Right.
And I did have expectations. Right? So, Lisa, I completely relate.
I love
100%.
that. I love that.
We're going to have to keep rebooting this monitor the entire day, aren't we?
Mother! Anyways, number 3.
Yes.
And this is a big one, okay?
Yeah.
So number 3, you might be a guilty person if you are a chronic blamer. Now, this is not the typical victimized blamer,
right,
who is blaming every single person in the world and every single situation in the world. Right. That's a very outward-oriented blamer, right?
Yes.
We are talking about the internalized blamer here. And
this makes me sad.
You know, Angie Olsen's watching, and I don't mind saying this because I know that her and I had a conversation about this a couple of months ago where she was like a life-changing conversation, okay? Yeah. I blamed myself for everything. Yep. And that is not, and I used to think it was, it's a form of me taking responsibility and accountability. You know, it's all on me.
Yes.
And yeah, of course you have to take accountability, but there's a big difference between taking accountability and taking blame, right? So I chronically took blame. It didn't matter what happened. It didn't matter the situation. It was my fault. Therefore, I had to fix it, right? So when you are taking on everything, you know, too much blame is or responsibility coming inward, and you think the whole world is on your shoulders, that leads to massive guilt.
Yes.
But it also is driven from guilt.
Yeah.
It comes at you from that angle.
And it's such an important thing. Like, you can't heal.
No.
Right? You can't heal from a place of feeling as though you're responsible and to blame for everything. You can't find clarity. You can't find peace. You certainly are having massive self-worth, massive self-value issues. And that broke my heart when I really would watch Carrie take blame for everything. Do you notice when we talk, and we have talked a million topics that include this variance, we always use the word accountability. Because I don't really care what the dictionary says. Accountability and blame are different things.
Yeah.
Blame means it's your fault. Accountability means it's your problem. And that is decidedly different.
Yeah.
Right? Your fault means you were somehow unilaterally, the reason it all fucked up. Your problem means that it might not be your fault. It might be both of our faults. It might have been my fault that day, but you're taking accountability to make a change in it.
Right.
The change that you can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
So blame and accountability get mistaken all the time, but they're not the same thing.
Yeah. You know,
not remotely.
And Sandy just said something so powerful, which I can relate to. She said, yes, I used to be responsible for everything. It was easier that way.
Yeah,
and
the
you know
easier that way is so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, and Sandy, I know you're going to agree with this, and feel free to chime in, but it's easier that way until it's not. It's easier that way until you burst into tears because you can't take it anymore. Right. It's easier that way until you're angry and resentful and bitter at everybody in your world. It's easier that way until you have headaches and stomach upset, right? If you are blaming inward, you know what you're doing? You're taking all that negative emotion and you're piling it into your body. I believe probably guilty people, I don't know this to be true, I'm just suspecting that guilty people experience a great deal of physical symptomology that happens inwardly.
There is no question in my mind. None. I think about things like psychological disorders like cutting. Right? Especially teenagers and even adults who cut themselves.
Yeah.
I used to work for the United States national figure skating team as a performance coach. That's me with 5 other coaches, all of whom were women, and 26 athletes, all of whom were women.
Right.
I was the one guy. So you talk about walking into a bee's nest, like, these skaters ranged in age from 14 to 21. Think about that for a second, right? So I'm learning on the job. I was 23 years old at the time of my dad. I'm learning on the job hormones. You know, the challenges of women being so close and connected for 12 months of the year. So my point in saying all that is cutting was not atypical in that profession, in that circumstance. And I had no idea. Like, I had no idea. I was like, cutting, I don't get it.
Right.
Like, I don't understand. Like, why did he? I thought it was a suicide attempt. I came to understand that when you pent up emotion and strain and stress and guilt and victimization and shame and blame, and you inwardly put that down, it erupts.
Yeah.
It erupts in one of several ways. Sometimes it's illness, sometimes it's disease, sometimes it's lashing out, and sometimes it's self-inflicted pain to relieve the pressure.
Right.
And the reason I bring that up is that, I'll be honest, the statistics on the number of quote-unquote cutters in the world is sad, and it's inordinate. And so I say that just to say that, you know, if you're in that category, and I'm not asking you to admit that you are, take solace in understanding what's the derivative, where is it coming from, and how this can help.
Yeah.
And I so appreciate Carrie right now, while I was making a very serious point about cutters, she spilt water all over her fucking face while she took a sip and just suppressed the laughter.
Such a good job at that. Fuck. Sorry.
Oh my God.
Jeez, live TV.
Yes, Aaron Johnson, sorry. Guilt is a source of my physical issues. Good girl. Thank you for saying so, because that is true.
Yeah.
The emotional mind physical connection is not gobbledygook anymore. It is not refutable anymore. I will line up physicians on this show myself to tell you how true that is. 100%.
Absolutely. Now, you ready, guys? What do we do with it?
What do we do with it?
Okay, because... Oh, go ahead.
I just thought of something. There's one thing I wanted to say.
Okay.
Okay, and it speaks to everything we just said so far. And then we can move on.
Of course, absolutely.
So, listen. Again, I'm using Kristen Mahone Johnson's language, not speaking to her in any way whatsoever. I'm the glue. I take pride in being the one who fixes, right? All that stuff. I want you to understand that if you're the fixer, the defender, or you the blamer, you internalize it all. Here's what you do to yourself. I think we've talked a lot about.
Yeah.
But let me tell you the other side of the stone.
Yeah.
As somebody who's not been guilt or shame ridden, but watched it for so many years, okay? You disable and enable other people.
Yeah, completely. Absolutely.
I want my son to fall down so he can learn to get his ass back up.
Yeah.
I want my daughter to trip so she can learn to get back to her 2 feet.
Yep.
I do not want my wife going to save the fucking day every time one of them falls down. That's both literal and metaphoric.
Yeah.
When Chase fucks up something on his schoolwork because he didn't take accountability for what he needed to do, there's not a hope in hell I'm bailing him out of that situation. And you used to want to. And I'd be like, look at, like, there is a point where support becomes enable.
Yep.
And if we are constantly fixing, then we are enabling him to come to mommy every single time something fucks up in his life. I cannot impress enough. That's true for kids. It's also true for spouses. Because here's another moment of vulnerability. I would manipulate situations so Carrie would come save me. Right? So we're talking a lot about Carrie right now. How she was guilty and shame-based, and this is the... But let's talk about me for a second. I would manipulate her guilt tendency so she would come and bail me out of shit that hurt.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
So for all the glory that the fixers and we feel it's an important job, it's enabling and it can be destructive. Absolutely destructive. Consider all of that.
Massive. Everybody just sit on that for a second, because it's unbelievably massive.
Somebody told Dana Powell that IBS symptoms were your fault.
Yeah, IBS. By the way,
Honestly.
Lisa Draplick, I saw you, not Lisa Draplick, Lisa Arsenault, I saw your comment as well. I was diagnosed with IBS as well when I was like 17 years old, and I believe it was exactly a product for me of not being able to deal with stress and needing to learn how to navigate it all. But yeah. I'll just leave that right there.
My heart's breaking for Dana Powell
right?
now. That's just, I don't like that you got told that stuff, love.
It's crazy.
Yeah, sorry, I'll stop.
So now, okay, how did I create change with all of this? Okay, so all of a sudden, right, now I'm in full awareness. I'm like, I am a guilty person. And what I started to recognize was guilt was doing everything that Brian just said it was. It was perpetuating him staying stuck in some of his own bullshit.
Yes.
It was keeping me furthered in mine. It was allowing that dance to continue so we weren't progressing forward in life because my guilt was just suffocating to me, to him, to everybody else in the world, right?
Sure.
So here's the first thing, and this one is really, really important. I'm going to take my time to paint this out, okay?
Yep.
I had to recognize that my guilt was not the problem, okay? Guilt was a byproduct of a much greater issue.
That's massive.
It was a symptom of a greater issue, right? And Brian has already hit on it. He said self-worth, okay? Yeah. So in the process of me kind of learning to understand this, you know, like guilt, so the best way to put it is guilt for me was what I refer to as the 100-mile-an-hour zone, okay? Guilt was the pot boiling over. A pot just doesn't boil over. A car just doesn't get to 100 kilometers or 100 miles an hour, right? There's a process to it getting there. And guilt for me was the most intense, the most debilitating, the most paralyzing state of emotion that I'd find myself in. Yeah. It would stop everything. I would be in tears for days, and then I would carry the guilt on for days afterwards, right? So I started to recognize, well, you know what? Like, it's not just happening. Like, guilt isn't, I just didn't get guilty. There was something that led up to that point, right? So guilt wasn't the problem. It was the great symptom that screwed everything over, right? So then I started to peel it back. And I think we've talked about this once on the show before, but I'm going to paint the picture for you so you can start to learn how to identify yourself in this way as well.
Massive stuff.
So I realized, okay, I'm going to go backwards. I was like, I'm feeling guilty. Okay, so what came before the guilt? What was I feeling before guilty? And this all came to me one day. It was the most powerful moment of my life. Brian and I are sitting in the kitchen, and we're both working. Yep. He's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing.
I remember this.
And Brian interrupts me to ask me a question. So I answer the question. No big deal, right? Answer the question. About 10 minutes later, I had a question for Brian. So I interrupt him to ask him the question. And his response was, you know what? I'm really a little bit busy right now. I'm going to have to answer this later. And I got an immediate sense of like negative emotion that flooded through me.
And I was nice about it. Like I wasn't an ass.
Yeah, it was immediate, the frustration that I got. And then, so I got a little bit like frowsy and frustrated. And I'm going to paint this back in a second. But that moment turned into an escalated fight. Yeah. Okay, so that little instant turned into an argument that lasted probably like 3 hours. This was like 6 years ago, okay? Mm-hmm. And so a couple hours later, I was sitting down at my computer after we had kind of like found ourselves in this place where like, okay, you know what? We're better now. Like, just let's go back to work, right? So I was sitting down at my computer, and the process unfolded for me. The 0 to 100 miles per hour unfolded for me. I recognized that the peak of everything was guilt, right? I was feeling so badly. I interrupted his day, and now we can't work, and I'm a failure, and I'm going to fuck everything up. It was horrible, right? But before the guilt was defense.
Yes.
I got very defensive, and that's when it all spiraled back to the beginning. Brian asked me a question, and I answered it no problem. He asked me a question. No, I asked him a question, and he didn't have time to answer it. And I realized in that moment what I was doing when I dropped everything to answer his question was that I was people-pleasing.
Yes.
Because you know what? When I looked back at it, I really didn't want to stop what I was doing to answer his question. So I people-pleased. I stopped everything to answer his question. Yep. And then immediately after that, when he said he didn't have time for me, resent hit. And resent hit hard. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't understand. And this is all going on in my head. Brian's working. He's like, I don't know what's going on. He got hit with the tidal wave afterwards. But here I am going, you know what? I don't understand. Like, why can he interrupt me, but I can't interrupt him? I don't understand. Like, I do this all the time for him. And then, that's what resent sounds like, right? You can all relate. So that resent hit. Then from resent, victimization. Yeah. I don't understand why doesn't Brian love me as much as I love him so that he will answer my questions too. And that's when Brian noticed. Yep. Carrie face was there, and he's like, what's wrong? And I started defending. Yep. You know, but this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And then it escalated, and then it got guilty. But now here's what you have to understand, is from that guilty moment, what ends up happening is it actually goes right back to the beginning, because guilt led me right back to people pleasing.
Yes, it did.
And I would start people pleasing again and find myself in the same circle. So I realized that I needed to interrupt that way at the beginning when I started people pleasing and not let the cycle go on. And at the core of it all was self-worth.
Yes.
I wasn't good enough for him. That's what I believed. And so I would people please to make myself feel worthy in those situations.
Yep.
I'm done.
Well, let me tell you, my focus, unfortunately, guys, have been on monitors.
Oh, great.
But I'm looking at monitors, and there have been so many people who have chimed into that story.
I'm glad I took my
And said,
time.
man, I really relate to all of that. Lisa Arsenault, Christopher Johnson, there's more. There's many more, but the monitor is being short-lived right now.
So
Yes.
you know, in summary, guys.
Massive. People really resonated with that.
So in summary, what you need to learn how to do is you don't need to learn how to stop being guilty.
Yeah.
You need to be aware of when guilt hits.
That's it.
And you need to start to recognize and understand when you're in the simmer zone or the 20-kilometer-an-hour zone.
That's right.
To start interrupting the patterns.
Yep. Well, in interrupting patterns, can I tell you what I saw from an outsider?
Of course.
And hopefully this is big for you guys. What I saw from the outside looking in was what was Carrie interrupting at 20 miles an hour before it got to 100. Now remember, 100 miles an hour is full-fledged guilt, people-pleasing, resent, defense, fix, all of it, right? Mm-hmm. So what was she pattern interrupting at 20 miles an hour before it got there? And the one thing I noticed that you interrupted the most was expectation. That is the one that I saw you interrupt the most. That when Carrie started carrying expectation of me, of Chase, of Maya, of people, when you started having expectation of reciprocal action or whatever it was, you knew you were sliding.
Right.
If you think about the story Carrie just told,
I expected a response from
exactly. Hey, Carrie, can I ask you a question? I'm interrupting you. Yeah, go ahead and ask me your question. So I asked, she answered. 2 minutes later, hey, Brian, can I ask you a question? You know, I'm a little busy. Give me a couple minutes. She had an expectation. The expectation was I was going to reciprocate.
Right.
Right? Which is not reasonable. And if you're a guilt and shame person, maybe you see it as reasonable. But it's not reasonable. For all you know, I was writing a book at the time. I was in the middle of zoned in on a particular part of the story that I really wanted to tell. And I don't care if it was 2 seconds or 20 minutes ago that she had no problem interrupting herself. It doesn't mean I have to be held to the same standard for a variety of reasons. But that is the key of what you started interrupting patterns at 20 miles an hour, is when you felt yourself having expectations of my behavior, my actions, Chase's behavior and actions, Maya's behavior and actions. That is when you knew you were on the slide. You interrupted, and then that is the day that guilt, shame stopped in your life.
Yeah, and that was, you know, if I were to put that into the terms of what I just spoke about, that was in the resent phase. I only can feel resent if I had an expectation that wasn't met.
Yeah.
And that was when resent was the first thing I started to identify. That was the one for me that I was like, if I'm recognizing this, I mean, let's go back to what we talk about all the time, right? If I was listening to the language that was going on in my head, I could hear myself saying, but I do it for him.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it for me.
Right.
And if you're hearing that language, ask yourself that driver, like, really, you're doing something for, you're expecting something from someone because you did it for them, right? And at the very, very core of all of this, the real issue is that I didn't have enough security and self-worth to be able to say to Brian, you know what, babe, you got to hang on.
Yes.
Because I'm in the middle of something, right? So
yeah, or not be off-put that I didn't have a moment.
Right.
Either one.
Exactly.
So I want to turn this into our language now.
Yeah,
Are you ready? Because I think expectation is the pattern interrupt that might matter most.
Yeah.
To be brutally honest, let me put it in this our language, right? When I give to Carrie, give to my kids, give to you. When I give to anybody, my driver must be free nature. I must assess to make sure that I don't have expectation. Right? And look, I'll take it from 1,000 angles. I'll take it as a business owner. Okay, every single day we create these shows. Every single day we deliver these shows.
Yep.
Every single day we put our passion, our heart, and our soul into your world in order to help best we can. Uh-huh. How much do we charge for that? Not a damn thing. No money whatsoever. We ask you to share the show. That's the currency that we hope you don't mind doing.
Right.
Shares have plummeted in the last 2 weeks. Number one. Number two, when we do sell things, services, or products, imagine if I had the expectation that you bought them.
Right.
Think about that. But you want to know a secret? A lot of business owners do.
Of course.
Way more than you think. They get put off when they put value into the world and it's not reciprocated because you didn't buy the shit they asked you to.
Right.
Now, free nature means I do things because I want to. Free nature means I do things because I find joy in doing those things. Right? Free nature is gratitude going out without the expectation of receipt coming back.
Yeah.
Okay, now, here's why fixers and empathizers can get confused. Okay? Because I can have gratitude going out. I can do because I love you. I can do because I want to. I can do because I think it's the right thing to do. But what's my driver? If my driver is I'm expecting a receipt, I have expectations of that coming back to me, that's bound nature. Yeah. The driver is way off. Yeah. The driver is based in expectation. It's based in a lack of self-worth and self-value. It's based in not a lot of true joy. That's bound nature. When our driver is bound nature, we are going to misfire every time. Yeah. When our driver is free nature, we are going to hit the mark every time. So to distill it all down, it comes back to what we have been teaching and talking about forever. What's your driver? What is your honest driver? And the only way to assess that is do exactly what Carrie did. Start looking at patterns and interrupting them along the way. If expectation is part of the driver, your driver's off. Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful shit.
You know, it really
That's liberating shit.
Yeah. I have to just say, like...
Caitlin Graham says we're only at 11 shares right now with a sad face. Caitlin, you're the best.
Come on, people. Share it out. You know, I also want to add that... how quickly things can change when you really, you know, kind of take in everything that we've talked about today and digest it and use it. Because one of the things that I realized this morning as I was preparing for this is that I don't really know the last time I felt guilty. So much so that I had to really sink in and recall the feelings. Yeah. It's been a long time since I felt guilt because I've gone through this process. So as debilitating as it can be if you feel guilt and shame, and I know it can be because that's the emotion I can still recall, know that your way out is just to kind of go watch this video 5 times and then start applying and understanding yourself a little bit better.
You know, Ann Shivas asks a great question here. I'm on her working temporarily. If you promise something knowing you are in bound nature, like doing something for someone, do you still continue to do that action for that person? Like if you volunteer to help someone, how do you communicate? How do you communicate your interruption? These are great questions, and I don't think there's a one and done answer on that. Yeah. I think there's a myriad of things. So, for example, how well do I know this person? If I know this person well and they know me well, I will simply tell them, look, I said yes, and this is why I said yes, and I'm not comfortable with that. Are you okay if I back out? Yeah. If I know the person well, that's all right, right? But you know, Anne and everybody else, this is something I want to impress upon you. If you learn nothing from today, learn this, please, okay? We cannot walk around our lives being more concerned about other people and their reactions than we are about ourselves. When I identify myself in bound nature, no matter what I've promised, I pretty much interrupt the pattern and do what I have to do to pull back the reins. Even if that means disappointing people periodically. I'm never an asshole about it. I always explain myself best I can, but I protect me because I am good for nobody. My wife, my kids, and you. I'm good for nobody if I'm not whole. Yeah. So whenever I sense or see or absolutely know I'm in bound nature, I use that as the most important thing in the moment.
Yeah, you know, I have a great story to go along with this one, and you're going to remember it. So And because I found myself in that situation 1,000 times where I'm like, I've committed to something and I'm like, why did I do that? I don't want to do that.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
But on the guilt kind of topic, I want to paint this story. So we were going to meet a friend of ours who was actually our business consultant, Michael Fishman, brilliant man. He was up here in Montreal for a day. We were doing some consulting with him and we were running late. We were stuck in traffic and we were running late.
Yeah.
And I remember I texted him. I was feeling guilty. I was feeling very guilty because, I value him and I appreciate his time and I felt badly that he was waiting for us, right? So in my guilty haste, I sent him a quick text message simply saying, I'm so sorry we're late. I'm stuck in traffic, but we're on our way.
Yep.
And I didn't even realize it because that seemed like a perfectly valid thing to send.
Because it was true.
Right? And he said to me, he sent back.
Best advice we ever got.
Ever. He sent back to me, he goes, you know what? I'd rather you have just said to me, you know what? I mismanaged my time.
Yeah.
And, in mismanaging my time, I could have left earlier or whatever to avoid the situation.
Yeah.
He goes, but when you frame it as like, I'm stuck in traffic, it's a defense. It's putting up a wall, and it's really not valuing me the way you do value me.
Right.
Whereas if your honesty was, we kind of mismanaged our time this morning, and we're running a little bit late, but we're on our way. He goes, I get for you the emotion of what you were actually trying to convey in your apology.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
We were blown away.
Blown away.
Yeah.
But think about that, like. And if you think about the number of commitments that you commit to that maybe you don't want to be in, would you really want someone to do something for you that they didn't want to be involved in? So I've taken on honesty in a very diplomatic way, honesty with those situations, and I always, speak my heart, and it works every time for me.
And Michael phrased it perfectly. He said, I know you guys value me, but this message is not valuable.
Yeah.
You're basically excusing being late.
You're putting on something else.
As opposed to just saying, Michael, I mismanaged my time.
Yeah.
Truly sorry about that. We're going to be about 15 minutes late. To which he told us, he goes, I would have said no problem. I'm still saying no problem. Just don't belittle me or you in the process.
Mind blowing.
How powerful is that? And so, Anne, we give that to you.
Yeah.
If the driver's bound nature, be honest about it. Which Carrie's story is a way better practical example of what I said before. Tell the person.
Right.
I overbit.
Yeah.
I overcommitted.
Yeah.
Or, whatever is the honesty.
Absolutely.
Quick shout out to Steve Montefinesse and Jessica and Lee Patterson, who are joining us a little late today. Hi, guys.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. You missed our monitor kerfuffle.
Yeah, we've had monitor kerfuffles all day, but we've managed to do very, very well.
You also missed me spilling water all over my mouth while Brian was in the middle of a fantastic mic drop. Sure.
Yes, you were. That. I still think that when you spilled water on yourself was the funniest thing ever.
I tried.
So guys, how's that sound today? You dig that episode? You know what I am going to ask you to do?
I love that.
I am going to ask you to consider sharing this episode right now. Shares have been way down. So maybe our game is off. Maybe we have to up the ante even more. Maybe we're not doing everything for you and with you that you want us to. And if that's the case, feel free to let us know. Yeah. Send us a private message on the Brian&Carrie fan page.
Absolutely.
Guys, I think I'd like more of this. Doesn't mean we're going to incorporate it into everyone opinions like assholes. Everyone's got one, but we want to hear yours. So if the shares are down because something is this, you want more of this or you want less of that, let us know. We're open to hearing absolutely everything, but we're also honest and value you and ourselves enough to say, doesn't mean we're going to use your opinion. Right? And that's not off-guarding. That's just fact.
Yep.
But if you enjoyed today's show, if we did earn it, give us a share right now, please.
Yeah, kudos to everybody because shares are up since I can't remember who it was who called in, but I can read them right now. So you guys, you know what? I want to remind everybody again that, this is our ripple. Our ripple of change that we bring to you, and that you get to expand that ripple. You throw a pebble in a still pond, and the ripples, extend all the way to the shore across the other side of the pond.
Yes.
The same thing is true for this. So you share this, and you extend the ripple to someone who needs to hear this, and maybe didn't even know they needed to hear this.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got to tell you this. Tomorrow's Thursday.
It is.
Friday is #FUF. It's Fucked Up Friday. We have a little surprise show that day. And I don't mind just saying this. We're going to be on the road.
We are going to be on the road.
But we got ourselves a little dashboard mount cam. So while Carrie drives and I'm passenger, we're driving into the big city from the mountains. You're going to come with us. So we're going to have a Brian and Carrie in the morning on the road.
We'll do a little car karaoke for you.
Little car karaoke, etc. Right? So that's going to be Fucked Up Friday. And tomorrow we're going to do something kind of special also. I don't know what it is yet. I want to cook. I want to do something in our bedroom. Turn off your blinders. Or I want to go and do a nice Q&A in our living room again. I want to do something interesting and fun for the crew. So maybe it's going to be in our bedroom with our clothing and packing or something like that. Maybe we'll do another cooking episode. Maybe we'll go down to a Q&A in the living room. Who knows?
I would like to know
if
you heard that and you have ideas of what you'd like to see. We may or may not choose it. But if you have ideas, chime in and say, you know what? I want you guys to do a show on this.
Yes.
Or here or there or in your underwear. I'll do a show in my underwear.
She would.
What the hell do I care? It's a
She
body.
would. I love Lee Patterson. You guys are doing amazing. It's just time zone holidays here, but still sharing. And then Lee says, get sharing, crew. Tag 5 friends.
Y'all are the best.
You guys are. We're the best crew in the entire world. Love you to death. If you'd like to comment about what you think tomorrow, Thursday show should be about, either comment here or send us a private message.
Yeah.
Either one's fine. And we'll try to accommodate best we can.
Sounds fun.
Yes.
Awesome. Have a great day, guys.
Be well, be well, be well.